Hi everyone. So I thought we'd get back to it and start with this little card here so I can show you how we made this one. So what I've done, I've already masked out a little card here, and we've just put a little bit of Scotch removable tape all the way around the outside here so that we can get a nice white border on the card when we've finished. And I've already started just to add a little bit of colour around the edges. So we've used a little bit of Atlantic and a little bit of Peony, which are these two colours here. And then we've used a little bit of bark around the bottom as well. So I'm going to start by adding some mountains, and all we've done here is just torn some little bits of paper to add the mountains in. And I'm going to pop those around the top here like that. And we're just going to start to colour down. So I tend to put most of the darkest colour in the little dips in the mountains. So just where you're going to get a little bit more shadow. You want to keep these quite pale as well because they're going to be quite distant. So not too dark. But any sort of shape will do. Doesn't really matter. You could make it hills if you really wanted to. So I'm just going to go across the top now with what I've got left on my finger and add a little bit more if we need to as we're going along, until we've got a little sort of paled out mountain range in the background there. I've also got another one as well, just to add a little bit more interest rather than using the same piece every time. So it just gives a little bit of variation. So I'm going to add a little bit of the Peony over the top, which gives it this lovely sort of soft purpley hue, which I really like. So there's our first little mountain range here. So let's peel this away. And then I'm going to go and use the other one that we've already torn here. I'm going to pop that. Just line it up wherever you think that looks quite nice. And then we're going to add a little bit more of the blue. Now again, I'm going to keep this a little bit softer because it's in the distance. It's just a twinge of colour on there, just to look like you've got little distant mountains there, like that. So it should be softer. And again, if you want to go back, you can just add a little bit of colour in there like that with some of these here, until you're sort of happy with the look that you've got. So a bit different to what I did last time, I'm actually going to just mask out part of this here. I'm going to add just a little bit of the blue before we start doing our brown, like that, just so we've got a nice defined hillside here. And again, I'm going to concentrate most of the darker colour just around the bottom line here. It just gives it a little bit more definition, like that. Okay, so let's add in our little tree line now before we go any further. So I'll post all the products alongside the video, so you know exactly what we've used here. So I'm just going to stamp my first one. I'll take it up a little higher as well, like this. And then I'm going to add some shade to this in a minute. And then the same just along here. Now you can actually just join this together, but my block's so dirty on the back I can't actually see very well. But it is a lovely stamp. It's great for Christmas. So let's just join that one up there, like that. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. You can always sort of join this up with a little pen if you have to. It doesn't really matter. So now what we're going to do is just add a little bit more blue to this. So just in those trees. Just to give it a little bit more shadow. So we want the ground to have a blue tinge from that sky, just in the distance, like that. And then just blend it all together. Don't be frightened of sort of rubbing over all of these, just to soften that up a little bit, like that. And then we're going to go back to our little hills now, and we're going to start to add in our brown. So I'm going to go about there, and just add a little bit of bark to give us our first little hill. So any shape really for this, it doesn't matter. It's just your sort of dividing line from those mountains. Like that. And then we can start to add in some more little hills with this. So I'm just going to go sort of anywhere you like. It does always pay if you've got two more, or at least another shape that you can add in here, so all your hills don't look too samey. So I think we do have another piece I can use in a second. But let's just add. So I'm colouring up so we've got a little bit of shadow, and then what you can do is just blend down with your finger. So you've got a little bit of a highlight on that hill. Let's use another piece. So let's go to this one. And we'll just do the same sort of thing. So I'm just going to shade above. And I can take that off and then just blend that in, just soften that off. So I think I'm going to do a little bit more just here. Put a little bit more colour in there. And a little bit there. Let's just soften it together like that. And let's do another one just about here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sort of fill in that little gap there that we've got. And then maybe on the other side as well. Just like that. There we go. So we want to keep those bits of paint, because what we're going to do is put some little grasses and things in here now. So just find your bit that sort of matches up. Again, this doesn't have to be exact. You're just sort of masking out a little area to put your trees in. Now this was Laura's idea. It's such a great idea, using the top of the trees to make these little bushes. So I'm just going to go across the top like that, add those in. And what we'll do, we'll soften these up again in a minute. So let's take a bit there. You see this doesn't exactly line up because we've torn it, but honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. And then let's just do one here as well. And you basically just keep going until you're happy with the way this looks. Let's take that off, and then what I'm going to do is just soften all of this off with my finger on the dry baby wipe. So just soften the whole image. Doesn't matter if you blend some of these colours out into each other, just softens the whole card. And what I'm going to do actually is add a little bit more blue at that top bit there. Just bring this down a little bit. Okay, so if we go back to our little piece of paper, we can bring in something, a little set called textures. So I'm just going to use the little grasses, and again I'm going to keep them to the bark that we were using before, and we're just going to sort of dot these just sort of above here like that. So anywhere, and it's good if you can try and make them look a little bit bigger towards the front. You can just sort of overstamp them, so we can just take them up and then up a little bit more like that to make it look a bit bigger. And you get this beautiful effect here. So let's go about there, and we'll just take that up a little bit higher like that. And then let's have a little bit more on this side here. So really it's just free and easy here. You do whatever you like, but you get a lovely effect. So what I'm going to do, we're going to bring in some of the other little textures. So these are the little flowers. And we're just going to use sort of the flower heads, and I'm just going to start to dot these. And you want it to be nice and soft, because what we're looking for is this to look more and more distant the further out it goes. So you want these to be nice and pale. So you don't need to worry about the size too much. Just make sure as it goes outwards, it's getting nice and pale to create this lovely sort of textured background. I can honestly say this is one of my absolute favourite stamp sets. It's funny, sometimes you make cards for years and years and years, and you come across just one thing That sort of changes the way you do everything, and then you can't imagine sort of stamping without it. So we're going to add another little range of flowers, also in the textures set, and this time I think I'm going to use Pinecone, which is a slightly darker brown, and we'll just do the tips, and we're just going to start to dot this in, and you'll find this will bring everything together. So just dot it, and again, as it pales out, take it off into that distance there. So it's just like a little filler to give that ground texture. And sort of all the way up there into the background like that. So once we finish that, what we're going to do is add in our little fence. So this is from a set called Peaceful Place, and we're going to use fallen leaves on this one. So we're not going to pop the whole of the fence in, we're going to take it down off the edge. So I'm going to stamp it about, let's go about there, because remember we want some room for our little fox to sit on there as well. So don't be frightened of taking it at an angle as well. And make sure you walk your fingers all over that stamp. There we go, so let's take that off. And let's get our little fox just sitting on top here now. So again, fallen leaves. And we're just going to pop him on top here. Like that. Don't worry about his little white areas, his little white areas, because we can just add the white fine liner to that in a minute. So what we've got now is some foliage to fill in. So we're going to use my good old friendly Oriental Blossom. I'm going to have this little branch just hanging down from the top. So I'm going to take it up to the top like that. And stamp it 2 or 3 times as well without re-inking. It'll give it a little bit more dimension. And I'm going to do the same all the way across. Just taking it a little bit shorter as it gets to the edges there. Let's do a nice one there. And just let it fade out towards the edge like that. And then any other foliage stamp that you've got, we're going to pop down at the bottom here. This is a little berry branch, but again, it can be anything. And again, what this is doing is adding a little bit of dimension, because you've got some nice things in the foreground now that are bringing, sort of sending everything else into the background. So it just gives you that little bit of added dimension that you need. And at the moment, it does look really messy, but we're not going to worry about that at the moment. So we've got some little leaves, a little leaf cluster from the texture set as well, which is absolutely invaluable. And I'm going to use this to create our little leaves on our little trees, on our branches here. So just vary the angle that you do it in. And again, don't re-ink it every time, because you want a little bit of dimension there. So you want some looking like they're further forward, which obviously would be your darker ones. I think that'll just about do us. So what I'm going to do is just pick up some of the ink that is sitting around the edges here. Otherwise, I know I'm going to stick a finger or an elbow in there. So let's get rid of that first, like that. And then we're going to add a little bit of pen. So a little bit of highlight here. Now, you can do some little cracks in the mountains with this if you want. Just to give them a little bit of highlight here and make them stand out a little bit. Like that. This, to me, it really, again, just separates your stamping. So if you've got a lot of stamps stamped over each other, adding a little bit of the highlighter will really sort of separate all the stamps and just make it look very, very clean. So I'm adding a little bit of extra detail there onto the little fox. I'm going to add some little bits of white highlight to some of these branches. So again, this really is only going to show up, and I could play for absolutely ages with a white fine liner. So feel free to do as much or as little as you like. And I'm just going to colour in little bits of the fence here, because it's quite an open stamp, the little fence on this one. So you could add a bit more darker colour if you wanted to, but I'm just going to pick up with a little bit of highlight. Like that. Okay, so we're going to peel off all the edges now to this. Now the tape I'm using here is Scotch removable, so it's the one that comes in the blue box. Oops, sorry. Just get this bit off here. And I love peeling this back to reveal a lovely white edge. It really does make the card itself stand out. I think we just need a little bit of some glitter on there that I can't actually find right now. Isn't that typical? Oh, here we go. Let's add a little bit of stickles to this. So I'm just going to put a little bit maybe on these trees at the back here, just to give us a little bit of sparkle back there. Those who know me know I'm always using the Glamour Dust, but as we haven't actually got any there, I'm going to stick with the stickles. And what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of liquid pearls just on some of these little berries here, because it's a perfect colour to go alongside the little background here. This one is called Lavender Lace, which is really, really pretty with the Atlantic. And just pull out some of those little berries. Sometimes it's these little details that really sort of add these little finishing touches that you do. Okay, and I think that'll just about do us. Let's just take away that top sheet there so you can actually see what that looks like. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you like the card. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.